Oh, it is the deep breath before the plunge. I think we are live. All right, first time live. I've got my 4 subscribers, which I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of. So I wanted NPR to be something less myopic and individually focused than the other channel. I wanted it to be something a little bit different. So I hope that it is. I hope that if anybody watches this or gets guilted into watching this, I hope that, that this will go well. So thank you. If you have tuned in by some chance, I wanted to talk about Jennings. I feel like I see a lot of things pop up about TLC shows, but it seems like Jennings is kind of the one that always gets ignored. I don't know if it's because it's part of the culture war, because she's trans, but I feel like there's a real disparity in the way that Jennings gets treated in a negative way. And I know that TLC certainly doesn't want to think of itself as a transphobic organization. And I'm not here to question whether or not Jazz is trans or any of that, because at face value, whether or not it was put into her head, if it was put into her head, if it was her own idea, if it was perpetuated, she is a woman. She is a girl. She's been raised socially as a girl. So just telling you now, if you're going to come in here and be a jerk and use he, him pronouns, you're probably going to get kicked, because I have the power to do that. Now, for you guys in the Discord, I have welcomed you on if you want to talk. If not, it is the middle of the day. It's Labor Day. Happy Labor Day. If you are here, great. If you're watching this at a later time, that's okay too. But in watching the stuff about Jennings, I gotta say, it's really heartbreaking to see Jazz struggle. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the statistics behind being trans, there is a high rate of suicidality of attempts and successes. I don't remember the exact stats on that, but I believe 41% of trans people will attempt suicide. I think those are the stats. I don't think they successfully die. That's not a success. I'd have to look that up. There's a high affiliation of depression, of anxiety, and Jazz certainly seems to have those things. And while they do talk about things like depression, they take a very hands-off approach to discussing Jazz's depression. It's just she has depression. There's a heavy emphasis on the show on gender confirmation surgery, which is basically being castrated and having that turned into a vagina. And this is kind of an issue because Jazz never went through natal puberty, ergo her penis never grew, and she didn't really have enough materials to work with. So she had a lot of trouble with that surgery. I believe to date she has had 4 surgeries, 3 revisions, both with Dr. Jess Ting and Dr. Marci Bowers, who I have a huge problem with. I am not going to lie. I'm not the biggest fan. She's a pretty awful person. It's interesting to me what we will accept, because it's a trans kid being treated by a trans woman. But let me just go ahead and cue this up. Jazz Jennings and her interactions. And I'll show you why I'm not a huge fan of Dr. Bowers. Just pop over here. There's a huge emphasis, by the way, in the show about Jazz's weight. And maybe I'm just getting old, maybe I'm whatever. Jazz does not appear overweight to me. I would love to hear what you guys think, if this is just me being crazy, but Dr. Bowers in particular puts a huge emphasis on her weight, basically, and it really sucks, and I really do not approve or like this. I don't know, I'll have to show you guys. Let me make sure I got my volume on. Yippee-ki-yay. Nope.
Hi, how are you? I saw Jazz and her folks about 6 months ago, and...
All right, hold on here. Let me just full screen this. Whoop. All right.
And that was actually...
So, fact about Marci Bowers. She used to be Mark Bowers before she transitioned. She was an obstetrician, and she transitioned not just from male to female, but she also transitioned from being an obstetrician delivering babies primarily to being a surgeon. The community, the trans community, really seems to love her. You do not see much negative about her. It's really strange because you don't see much bad press. You see a lot more negative, a lot more mixed stuff about the other top surgeons in the transgender field. Curtis Crane, you see a lot more, and Dr. Saporn, who have some very good results. I think their resumes are a little bit beefier. If I were trans, I think my choice would be Curtis Crane, not because he has the most lovely results by any means, but I like his results, I guess, because they're functional. He has a focus in urologic trauma, so you know that it's probably going to work. If it's Dr. Crane's work, it's going to work functional. I don't think by nature that genitals are just beautiful or striking, particularly vaginas. I mean, what you're interested in functionality. Bottom line, you're looking for functionality. And I think Dr. Curtis Crane sort of fits the bill. But that's my opinion. We're here to watch Jazz, Jennings, and Bowers. That's me. All right.
The first time I've gotten to examine Jazz. So I called Jennings today because I've been speaking with colleagues and I wanted to get their take on a number of issues. So I wanted to follow up with you in person just because your surgery will be very difficult in terms of what even the most experienced surgeons have encountered. Mm-hmm. Not to bring up the bad news first, but you gain in your BMI, mm-hmm. which is called body mass index, which basically looks at your weight compared to your height. We're going.
She just doesn't look overweight to me. She looks like a normal teenage girl. Maybe she's a little chubby, but this whole thing puts this really ridiculous view of her weight, like she's some danger going under. Now, with gender reassignment, gender confirmation surgery, like, it is going to work better if you have less fat on the pelvis. There's not as much tissue perfusion where there's a lot of fat. It can cause problems. So it's very hard to do the surgery on somebody who's overweight, who's heavy. I've seen results of surgeries on people who are significantly heavier than Jazz. But I don't know. Just when I watched this stuff with Dr. Bowers, I got a whole "this is my fetish" vibe. And I'm not saying that because she's a trans woman. I would not have a problem with the trans doctor. But I just felt like this was really unhealthy, this whole emphasis of this is what you need to look like. Yeah, she's fine. First of all, I'm not a huge fan of a 17-year-old girl ruining their fertility for life. Like, it's gone. Once it's gone, it's gone. Period. I mean, it's just a lot for a young girl. And to put this into perspective, Dr. Bowers has 3 biological children. Like, she got to live out normal male sexuality. She got to experience orgasm. People who don't experience natal puberty for MTFs, that's a challenging issue. We just don't know a lot about it. And I think that's a lot to take that from a very young person. It's just my opinion. which, is based in science. Grain of salt, not too big a grain.
I'm going to get a hospital to say, we're going to allow surgery at age 17. You're going to have to be at a lower BMI.
Why? What is wrong with her BMI? Say what her BMI is. If she looks normal. 30 pounds is a lot. Like, I think she's pretty short. She's only like 5'2". 30 pounds is a lot of weight on a little woman. Like, come on now. That just seems like... I would love to hear the reasoning behind this, which you're not going to hear on this clip.
Literally, they won't approve it if your BMI is 1 dot over. When it translates to pounds, it's about 30 pounds.
The fact that I might not be able to get the surgery if I don't lose 30 pounds, I am absolutely horrified. I knew that my weight was a problem, but I didn't realize that it could affect something that I've been waiting for my entire life. Why do they decline you if your BMI is too high?
If there's more fat, if there's more weight, it makes the surgery longer and it makes it more difficult. We want to go into this with every arrow we can in our quiver.
She's clearly pretty miserable, by the way. Like, how awkward is that? Have cameras shoved in your face while your doctor says you're too fat for surgery. And also, she's not. She's nuts. They won't just give numbers. You know why? Because the numbers aren't that bad. Like, this is Dr. Bowers' thing. Terrible.
What we're finding is that as one new technology emerges, like...
Let's see if we can give somebody with gender dysphoria body dysmorphia. Beautiful, by the way. That's just great. Fantastic. It's a great way to treat a kid.
Hormone blockade. Nobody thought we could block puberty. It creates another problem elsewhere. Now we don't have enough tissue to create the adult genitals of the opposite sex. We solve one problem, but we create another. It's a little bit of a whack-a-mole kind of approach to medicine.
I love that, with a child's help, we're taking a whack-a-mole approach. Hello! Hey, hold on a second. I'm going to open something real quick. And what are you getting into? 1 second here. Hold on a second. I'm going to... She's not fat. There's nothing. Oh, it's okay, cutie pie. It's okay. I'll help you. I will help you. What do you need? Are you hungry? You want a sandwich? Or an apple? Wait. Show me. Show me what you want. Which one? Come here. You hold this. Ooh! I'm making a mess. You know what? This probably would have been neater if I had let you do this. It's time for a sandwich break. Let's see here. Let's see here. What the heck? Let me. So let's see. By the way, Nitty, tempting offer. You're welcome to come on. I'm making a sandwich though, so one moment. I'm just gonna, hold on here 1 second. I'm gonna, wait, that's not what I meant to do. I am a dog who doesn't know how to use a computer, an old blind dog doing my best. Hold on. Hold on, Mr. Daniel. I'll get you in just a minute, cutie pie. You have moderation power now, Nitty. There we go. It's okay. I'm gonna get you a sandwich. You're not gonna die. Oh boy, this is really good soft peanut butter. I thought you were gonna sleep. Come here, sweetie. Don't use the computer. Right now I'm using it. But you can have a sandwich. I know, it's disappointing. Yeah. Not right now. Not right. Come on. Come here. Come on. I know. It's very upsetting. Come here. Here. There's your sandwich. Squish. Yeah. I like white. There you go. You're starving. You're starving, Marvin. Poor kid. Poor kid. So he's had a couple days of like really crappy sleep. Well, if I'm on here scaring people, but don't feel like you have to turn on your cam, by the way, by any means. By the way, I think it's like just literally you and me right now. But don't feel like you have to. By the way, like we got back from swimming a few hours ago. He just fell asleep. So feel free. Let me see here. Excuse me. And we'll go ahead and hit play again.
But this is how medicine advances.
This is how medicine advances. But if it were my kid, no. This is how medicine advances. Here's the thing. I think if you're old enough to consent, that's really cool. Like, that's fine to be like, this is how medicine advances. Maybe if I were, the age I am now and trans, sure, I'll just like cater to the whims of somebody who kind of seems to get off on the whole being female thing. Oh, I understand Daniel was desperate to go swimming, so she loves the water. She's got it in her head, man. She knows that fall is coming. She knows this is coming soon. By the way, on Bowers being a creep thing, I want to be very clear about this. Let me look up the Marci Bowers website. I went over this a little bit with you. But let's go ahead and just look at Marci Bowers' website. She has like a quotes page, and it's... I thought it was here. Oh, well. She has like inspirational quotes. Let me see if I can find it. And it's like, it had like, quotes from Martin Luther King that were, she got the date very, very wrong. But it was just really, I have to show you. Because I only showed you a little bit of the screenshot quotes. Dr. Bowers. Her weird inspirational quotes. Oh, yeah. This is just great. This is the person that you want operating on your kid. So let's see here. Where there is diversity, there is hope. Marci Bowers, MD, 2018. I like that she is the first person that she quotes. That's cute. The arc of the moral universe is long, but bends towards justice. Well, first of all, let's go back to where there is diversity, there's hope. Diversity is a good thing. But I don't think it necessarily means there's hope. Like, it's okay, like, it's good to have different perspectives, but hope for what? But then, like, underneath that, she puts a quote from Martin Luther King Jr., which she attributes to 1853. Remember when Martin Luther King Jr. inspired the Abraham Lincoln, apparently. She really gets the timeline wrong. She did not get a good proofreader. The arc of the moral universe is long, but bends towards justice, which is a good quote. But maybe for inspirational quotes, you maybe want to put Martin Luther King Jr. under yourself, just saying. There, but for the grace of God, go I, says John Bradford. Be kind, we all carry a heavy burden. It's like, that's not really comparable, though, to Martin Luther King Jr. Aggression in the name of peace is aggression, not peace. It's like, well, that's interesting for somebody who just says, yeah, for somebody who's just said you need to lose 30 pounds to a normal-looking teenage girl. It gets worse, though. I'll just skip to the bottom. Eat less, live longer. Marci Bowers, 2003. It's like, look, I'm no little slip of a thing myself, but I don't really know that that's the inspirational quote that you want. It doesn't really make me trust her with somebody who's as sensitive as a teenage girl who's trans. It's like, I don't know. Like, that's not really the person. If you think that restricting your intake is a good thing. By the way, she's a huge fan of Dean Ornish. And if you don't know who Dean Ornish is, he published a book in 1977. What are you doing, cutie? He published a book in 1977 about heart disease and did a study on how a low-fat diet made improved heart disease, improved the outcome, reversed heart disease to some degree. And Dean Ornish was interesting. I remember my dad being really into Dean Ornish and having his books in our house, and I found them really interesting. The problem with Dean Ornish's studies is they're kind of flawed because those studies were focused on replacing, like, you know, your processed crappy diet, you little messy. Come here. With your processed crappy diet. You want to come say hi? What are you doing? Wow. Oh, I see. Yeah, why not? You can have it. I'm weak. But anyway. Yeah. Okay. Sure, you can have that. Not a problem. Oh, you're going to get up here? Wonderful. He's like, I'll be on your stream out of range. But anyway, Dean Ornish, the studies were flawed because he moved from, like, the patients were moving to a vegetarian-based diet with whole grains, low fat from processed, a lot of emphasis on red meat, yada, yada. Like, it just, there's some messed up things. We know now that having healthy fats like olive oil, things like that, are pretty good for you. Natural fats like the fat in fish and chicken, like, there are benefits to that. And having enough animal products in your diet does seem to lend itself towards being healthier. Vegans and people who eat a meat-heavy diet actually have a pretty similar incidence of heart disease. Mama, I want. Exactly. That's his favorite thing to say, is to demand. It's not a good idea to say to an impressionable child who's already having difficulty with gender identity. It's not good for children without identity issues. No, it really isn't. And here's what bugs me about this. It's like, here you are, you have this very young person who already has identity issues, and, like, there's already so much pressure when you're a girl or a woman to conform, especially, like, traditional femininity says, like, you need to be small and cute, and, you know, you need to fit this image. It's like, you already are probably suffering from some degree of imposter syndrome as a trans girl. Even though, like, you've been trans your entire life, you've been living as a girl in most of your life. Cutie. You want my water too? Mm-hmm. Yeah. No? Okay. But I just kind of feel like she heaps these things onto a very young, impressionable person. And certainly, Dr. Bowers looks like she's eating okay. Like, she's getting by. I'm not worried that, like, Dr. Bowers is, like, an anorexic woman who's pushing this anorexic agenda. And it's like a normal person who's trans, who says, who's whatever, that's fine. And if they're a really good doctor, like, I wouldn't care as a grown woman if, like, somebody's like, oh, this is my fetish, if they're giving me good care. But my kid, that's different, and a kid can't really, like, understand that sometimes adults let their fantasies and their thoughts on the way things should be dictate things too much. Like, Jazz doesn't have that voice. You just don't have that at 17. Like, she's a smart, outspoken girl, but clearly, like, the one problem, and every family has problems, this isn't a value judgment, every family has problems, but Jazz has this problem of there's not really much room for self-doubt and maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I made the wrong decision in going to Harvard. Maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe instead of I'm a girl, I'm non-binary. Or even just giving yourself in transition to say, you know, maybe this regular depth vagina, not for me. But let's go ahead. I'm going to look this up too. Where are you going? Something that Jazz's mom said about dilation. See if I can find, like, her mom getting really upset about it. Let's see here. This is heartbreaking too. The surgery did not go as well as it should have. I'll go ahead and pull this up. And this would fill you with doubt and a lot of pain. And the thing is, there's no one way to have gender confirmation surgery. And something I really like about Curtis Crane is he seeks to do minimally invasive surgery. So, like, if it alleviates your dysphoria, just to do the bare minimum, just like maybe you just cut off the testes, maybe you just if you're an FTM, maybe you just do a metoidioplasty where you're basically like freeing the clitoris from like the flesh surrounding it, so you have a micro penis. The less the better to alleviate dysphoria, and he does some full surgery that's great. But I think that Jazz's family got swept up in this idea, and I can understand this as a mom. Like, if your child wants to be a girl, wanting them to really be a girl via surgery, but it's kind of bullcrap. Yeah, the tiny girls, the mind says they want to be like the tiny girls on TV and magazines. Their body may not be built for that. And Jazz, yeah, like, she's, you know, kind of a short, curvy girl, and that's fine. Like, that's fine. And I think it also hasn't extended to being around genitals, but pornography is so pervasive in our society, and like the image of genital nudity is there. I think now that's starting to become a thing with genitals, and I'm sure it affects trans people. It affects cis people, period. Like, it affects everybody. But there's no room for Jazz to really question and say, well, maybe I just want like a zero depth vulva, which is a thing. Maybe I'm okay with having a penis. That's kind of the advantage that an older trans person like Blair White has over her. Blair is confident enough to say, you know, I don't think that these surgeries are that good. I don't really want to deal with a gaping wound. I'm okay with keeping the genitals I was born with. But you don't have that maturity to really think about it in those terms at 17. you're kind of going to go along with what normal is. And unfortunately, we don't really have a good answer to normal yet for trans surgeries, for MTF surgeries, having a full functional vagina. What you have essentially is a wound that you're going to have to dilate frequently for the rest of your life. Minimally, you're going to have to dilate once a month. And if that's something you want to do, great. If I had been born male, pass. I don't think that would be for me. I mean, it's fine, but... And I just question that people who aren't in the medical field to any degree, like, really have the education to make that decision. It's like, it's certainly not talked about in the show. And it's not that I think reality TV is everything. Like, this is the full representation. But there is a shot where she said, like, she would go in and wake Jazz out of a deep sleep and hand her the dilator and say, you put it in or I will. And I can understand that frustration as a parent. You're like, we paid all of this money. We went through all of this for you. We did this for you. And it's like, yeah, you did. But at the end of the day, what if this neo-vagina isn't for Jazz? Like, does she have enough room to say, hey, I hate dilation. I don't care that much about vaginal intercourse. Maybe I'm missing something, but I really don't want to do this anymore. I think that would be hard to say in our current situation. It's like, absolutely. And I think what's worse than being a woman who doesn't have a vagina is being a woman who can't have a functional sexuality. Anyway, let me play this clip. When I looked, the whole thing had just split open is the name of this. Like, this is horrifying.
Isn't that what you're feeling right now? I'm just so worried. And I'm just angry. I just don't know why this is happening. I'm mad. Just, she didn't deserve this.
I mean, she probably feels like an enormous screw-up, which, yeah, she didn't deserve this. You're right. She did not deserve. Just to tell you a little bit about the procedure, what they had done is they chose, rather than do a traditional surgery, that wasn't possible because she didn't have a mature penis. So they had two choices. They could go with a skin expander in the testicles. It would stretch the skin out over time, which would suck, right? Eventually you would have a sack the size of a grapefruit, which sounds miserable. Like, that sounds like a terrible summer because you're not going to be able to do anything once it gets to a certain size. Like, that sounds miserable. But it would be her own skin. Like, it would be something. What they chose to do instead was to take some of the peritoneum, the lining of the abdomen, and use that to make it into a patchwork vagina with some of the penile skin, some of the testicular skin. And it's just like, I understand they're thinking, like, with the peritoneum. I understand the thinking. It's okay, it's hairless, it's mucosal, it's more like a vagina, but no. Like, probably for the teenager, a huge selling point is, unlike the scrotal skin, it's not going to have hair. Because even though she has a puberty blocker, she has a Lupron blocker, so she's not going to have male puberty, you still develop some pubic hair, right? So she probably has hair, like she would have to get electrolysis. It's kind of a mess. But on the plus side, like, it's pretty stable. You got a bad summer ahead of you, 6 months or whatever. 6 months where you're not going to be able to do anything. You're going to be wearing sweatpants, sitting in your room. You're probably not going to shift those 30 pounds, which she does not need to lose 30 pounds. Just saying it. You worked in healthcare, Nitty. I don't see it. We're both healthcare people. I don't see where she has 30 pounds to lose. But, okay, so, like, you choose to do that. She's probably going to put on weight because she can't be mobile, can't do anything once your testicles get to a certain size. But, like, at the end of that, like, you have a more reasonable answer. Like, you have more of a functional, less of a painful vagina. You haven't cut into her abdomen to get the peritoneum. Like, you don't have as many wounds. It's just, hey, Sarah, what's up? And it's not like this whole Frankenstein mess. You have like a better, more cohesive result. Not saying that like you still need to have a vagina, but it's better. It's like, okay, even with the electrolysis, even with all the extra stuff, the really bad summer ahead of you, it's still better. I think what the parents might have an idea that looks like normal lady parts will protect her from violence and hate. Yeah, I can understand that as a parent, and the mom gets compared a lot to Susan Schofield, and I don't see her that way, but unlike Susan, she's also not screeching in Jazz's face, constantly filming her. I think the parents have good intentions. You're so cute. He's playing and squealing. I think the parents genuinely have good intentions. Blair White and others have told stories about someone feeling they were tricked and turning violent. Yeah, I understand not wanting your child to trick somebody, especially when like Jazz passes, like her body passes, she looks female. I don't care what they say on Kiwi Farms, that's a really good thread, and I got a lot of information from that. Hold on 1 second. I'm glad you're here, Sarah. 1 second. What are you doing, Tom? I was afraid he was going to attack you. I was just trying to make you safe. You don't come on stream like that. You look very silly like that. That's all I'm saying. Everyone will laugh at you. Yeah, they're rushing it, and it's just not the answer. You don't know where that surgery is going to be in 10 years, and maybe I'm just getting old, but I also think there's nothing wrong with telling a 17-year-old, look, I understand feeling the pressure that, you know, if you identify as a girl, as a woman, feeling like you need to have a vagina. A, you don't. But I understand that feeling. B, like, it's also just okay not to have sex at 17 for that to not be on your radar. There's nothing wrong with waiting another decade because the surgery is advanced so much in 20 years, in 10 years, in 5 years. It's advanced so much. How much better is it going to be for people who said, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. I'm not going to put all my eggs in a basket. Do you want to come? Look at me. Yeah. Jeez Louise. You're cute. But let's get a wipe for your face, so messy moo-moo. You can come on. I would have urged her to wait. Because I also think it's reasonable that she's probably, in some ways, a little less mature than her peers. And that's not slamming on her. Do you want to come say hi, cutie puss? Not everybody has your maturity and wisdom. No. Say hello. Oh, now you don't want to talk. But yeah, not everybody needs to rush out and do that right away. It's like, it's just not that important. And I also get the idea that, like, you can't do this right now. Daniel nearly says hi. And little lady says hi. He's like, give me the computer. Sarah says hi. He's being a cutie, but he's being demanding like his father.
Like his mother.
No.
Let everyone know you're demanding. For Daniel gets it from.
Yeah, you're never demanding, Daniel. You all know.
Heard her, folks. Let everyone know I am never demanding.
Never demanding ever. I am so glad that OT worked so hard to teach you how to use scissors. She just made my life immeasurably better by working on that with you. Just, if Daniel's occupational therapist is watching, thank you for teaching him how to use scissors. That has not made our life more colorful or harder in any way. Thank you. Thank you. Scissors. You can have some of my water. Yeah, I don't want it. Wonderful. No. I feel like the parents want to do the right thing. They also really want to be the cool parents. They had a penis party at one point, and maybe I'll be done with this in about 19 minutes.
You're fine.
But they had a penis party at one point, and the mom is shown having jello shots and whatever. And there's nothing wrong with an adult woman with teenagers having jello shots. Like, I'm not shaming her for that. But this whole goodbye to your penis party, like, it's very much an attempt to be cool. And it's almost as though, God forbid, they said you can, hey, maybe it's okay, rather than trying to rush in being just like an adult woman so you can have sex, maybe until you figure out what you want, maybe you could just not have sex. It's like, they're so desperate to be cool parents, they forget, you can choose this conservative outcome. That's okay. Which is kind of sad. Like, it's so sad to me that, like, it becomes this left versus right issue to the point where we need to be hypersexualized with our kids or we're oppressing them. It's like, it just feels good to have sex. Like, that's great. I mean, probably not, considering she's on her 4th surgery that we know of. Probably not. And considering we're watching a video that says something like, when I looked, the whole thing had just split open. It's like, would it really have been that much worse to wait for 10 years and see how the surgery advances, or not to have a surgery where you have an open wound the rest of your life? Would it really be that bad? Clearly, Jeanette, I think her name's Jeanette, Janae feels bad. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad to watch. Like, she's not like Susan Schofield in that way. She's genuinely crying here.
She's so pretty. I tried so hard to not let her know, but I have been dying inside.
I think it would actually be good here to let your child know that, I may have been wrong to push you towards this. Please don't repeat this mistake if you have children. It's okay to admit being wrong. You just have to work towards figuring out something that doesn't leave her in chronic pain for the rest of her life. Like, it's okay to admit you were wrong. It doesn't make you a failure. Just saying.
Not the way it was supposed to.
It is.
Not the way this was supposed to go down.
Oh, I love Amanda Lepore. Amanda Lepore said the dilator was painful, like stabbing her with a knife. I can't imagine having my teen do that until they were older and had some life experience. Yeah, I mean, it's not worth it. It's not worth it if it hurts that much. And a 17-year-old just doesn't have the maturity to go through something like that, that, like, say a 24-year-old does. Somebody who's got some experience under your belt. Like, a 24-year-old trans woman just is an adult. Like, they have the brain maturity of an adult. They can make those decisions a lot better. It's like, I doubt she's dilating the way she should unless her mother's on top of her. And do you really want to be the mother that's obsessing over your child's genitals. Like, how are you going to reconcile that as a person? Like, at some point, it's really important to give your kids physical autonomy. And I feel like when you should be giving them physical autonomy space, they need to develop that, develop into a healthy adult. Really, by focusing on that surgery at that time in their lives, you're holding them back in some way. I don't think that was her intention. And I think she has people who honestly don't have Jazz's best intentions, like Dr. Bowers and Dr. Ting, to a lesser extent, telling her, yes, you should do this, you're being a good mother, pushing her into that. And that's a painful experience for the mother. Yeah, it's just not a necessity.
It was going so well. It was going so well. Don't know why.
Hello!
Okay, so we're all done. Number one, it was the right decision to do this. Because as we were getting her on the bed.
So Dr. Bowers was not in on this surgery. It's that other surgeon, Dr. Bella, what's her name, and Dr. Ting. That's pretty awful to have your child's doctor named Dr. Just Ting. That's just a bad joke waiting to be made.
I felt something go pop.
Oh my goodness.
And she said, oh, that doesn't feel good. And then when I looked, the whole thing had just split open. So if we hadn't done it today, or it would have happened in the hotel.
Oh my goodness.
It's tomorrow.
So I cannot show this part, but he said basically she climbed up on the table, it popped, and the whole thing split open. So typically on each side of the neovagina, I can't show a picture of this, but you have like a regular vaginal opening, you've got the clitoris, like you've got the vagina, you've got all of that, and on either side of that there are incisions kind of holding that together, because you've had the testes removed presumably at that point. So you have these two incisions. So I'm guessing those two things broke. Or maybe there's an internal stitch. I mean, it is just awful. I can't imagine being 17 and going through with that. That's just terrible.
Oh yeah. So your instinct was right.
It was right, absolutely right. So what we did, we were very conservative. We sewed some things back up. We removed any tissue that didn't look healthy. I think that would take tension off of any of the remaining incisions. And the good news is the inside, the vaginal vault itself is good. It's wide open, and that looked healthy.
Right.
The dehiscence on the outside, it was bad. She really was under so much tension that it created these large wounds. So we took a little bit of a skin graft from the other side of her groin, which we didn't use before, and I just put that in over the open wounds, repacked the vagina, and we covered everything.
So they didn't have enough skin for the outer portion. So keep in mind, second surgery, she has an abdominal incision where they took peritoneum, the lining of the abdominal cavity out. They took skin grafts from the groin initially. They took another skin graft from the groin. They had to throw some bad tissue out. So imagine like these huge strips of skin having to be taken off your groin, probably. Eventually it did extend down to her thighs, but like that's painful. That is just painful to think of, like all the skin grafts on your groin. Oh, like that's just awful. Like my heart breaks for her. Yeah, it's just terrible. Poor kid.
Let the skin recover as much as it can. Skin grafts don't always work. And if that happens, then we will probably just do the skin grafts again.
Let's hope we don't have to do that.
This is a setback, but we caught it early, we treated it appropriately, and now we just hope for the best.
I can't say that I feel relieved. I'm happy that this part's over and that we got good, positive feedback.
I mean, that's horrible. No one should have to go through that as a family. Yeah, I mean, it's great to have this under their belt, but they're looking for it to be a success. No child should have to go through that. No adult should have to go through that. I'm not saying adults, you deserve this. But man! And then they're wondering why she has these meltdowns. And this is where I kind of get frustrated with Kiwi Farms. Because they're like, oh, she's having temper tantrums. At 17 years old with an immature brain, and keep in mind, she's got a Lupron implant. She has something that has stopped her puberty, which, by the way, it doesn't just stop some secondary sex characteristics. That has an effect on your entire body. I'm not exactly sure of the neurological consequences of that, but she's not developing like her peers. So she may be behind the eight ball, a few years in terms of neurological development. How unfair is that to be labeled a spoiled brat when maybe it was medically necessary? I don't know if you want to make that argument. But she doesn't have the same maturity, and you're just not going to have the whole socialized experience. She grows up with people knowing she's trans. She doesn't have the advantage of going stealth. Everyone knows she's trans, so she's held back from normal socialization. On top of possible neurological consequences, we don't know if she's got the same maturity. She's just not at a typical 17-year-old level. I don't care. You take the most mature 17-year-old girl in the world. She is not mature enough to deal with that. Because that would be soul-crushing at 25. That would be soul-crushing at 60. But she doesn't have the maturity. And I don't think the parents were given enough education of what could go wrong. And of course, what motivation do the parents really have? What motivation did the doctors really have to say, hey, parents, this could go really bad and she could be in pain for a long time. And that pain and that further limited socialization, the limitations on mobility, all of those things are going to impact the person she becomes. Chronic pain can create things like personality disorders. That's just the reality of it. It's awful. I do think that a lot of people ask questions. Why did she take a gap year? She's considering taking a second gap year. I'm glad she took that time because I don't think somebody who's gone through all of these surgeries, all of this chronic pain, is emotionally ready for something like college. So I'm glad in that sense that she's done it. And even if they've made bad choices, I'm glad that her parents are trying to be supportive. It's like they might not be perfect, but they're trying their best, I assume. I think her siblings try to be supportive. If you guys are interested in having a stream like this again, we could certainly do this. I'm going to pop off of here for now because my family's awake and spend the rest of the holiday. Sarah, I hope you have a good holiday with the grandbabies and kids. Thank you for coming. Nitty, thank you so much. Let's continue this conversation in the future. I didn't get through a lot of the stuff I meant to get through. But, wow, did not know that it would go on this long. But, hey, thank you guys. Thank you so much. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Bye.